Hey, it's Joy. Welcome back to another Whimsy Stamps project. Sometimes we just need a quick and easy birthday card, and I figured why not do a shaker? So for this project, I am using the Old Buzzard stamp set, and I'm using that bottom one, and I'm using the tartan plaid background stamp as well as the rectangle Bauble Bubble. And later on, I bring in the Good Grief word and shadow die. I start out my project by inking up the tartan plaid background stamp with candied apple distress oxide, and I do put that down on a glass mat and just put my paper on top. So you see that I'm using a paper towel just to put some pressure down, and then I don't get my hands inky. Here's the reveal of that. I love it. Then I stamped the Buzzard from the Old Buzzard with some Copic friendly ink, and I'm going to color him up with some C9, 7, and 5. So in the darkest areas, I am putting the C9 and where the shadows would be, and I'm using my light source as if it's coming from the top right. So everything in the bottom left is going to be the darkest, and I put that in around the eyes and whatnot, and then I come in with the C7 and the 5, and I'm just doing basic blending. Now for the feathers, I'm using a E44, a 42, and a 41. And that's just to give it some color. Now, one thing about Copics is they are translucent. So for the claws and his snout, I'm using a Y15. Then I'm coming in with a YR18 in the shadows, then a YR16, and later a YR14. And you're going to see that I'm maintaining that the shadow is in the far left, and so everything that's in the upper right is a much higher highlight area. And you're going to see how nicely that Y kind of bounces back in there. Now to make the eyes come alive, I am using an N1, and I'm just putting in some shadows, and that's giving the illusion that the eyes are round and they're popping out of his head, sort of. I used the B18, 15, and 13 to color the party hat. So thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you're interested in any of the products that I'm using, they are linked in the description box below. Here I am using the rectangle from the Bauble Bubble, and I'm making a frame out of the checked paper from the Mix and Match Neutrals. And I'm using the smaller rectangle and die cutting that into the tartan plaid panel that we used. I am now laying that on top of a white piece of cardstock, and I am stamping this fun sentiment in there. Now if you felt comfortable, you could do this straight onto the card base, but I find it easier to stamp it on another piece of paper. Now I'm making the shaker. I released this adhesive backer, and I am putting the tartan plaid panel so that it fits on the inside. So the plastic's going to be on the front of that area, so the bubble is going to stick out. So what this does is it sort of eliminates the need for foam tape if you don't want to use it. Then I put that checked piece on top of that around the frame just to hide the plastic. Pretty cool how that turns out. I love how easy this is. These are some baubles from my stash. I'm not sure what they are. And then I did put down double-sided tear tape just so that I could use another piece of acetate. This is a cheaper quality acetate from my stash. And what that does is it sort of contains all the bits. That way you don't have to worry about getting that sentiment that we stamped in there and getting it straight the first time. So with wet glue in all the places that the plastic is not, I am adhering that down to that backer paper, and see how much easier that is. Everything is contained. You don't have bits flying anywhere, and you really have the opportunity to get your sentiment lined up straight. Here it is. I'm shaking it. Isn't that the coolest thing ever? Everybody loves a shaker card. These are always such a hit, even for birthdays or any occasion. Here I popped up the Old Buzzard. And then I die cut the Good Grief. I did the letters in black and the cloud or the shadow in white, and using a reversible tweezers, I am assisting myself in that placement, and I'm just putting that down with liquid glue. If you wanted to use a spray adhesive or a tape runner, you could do that too. It's up to you at this point. I just always have wet glue on hand, and I find that wet glue gives me a little bit of wiggle time if I don't get it on perfectly straight. So I do put this catty corner. Now this is coming off the side of the card, and I'm okay with that. I'm going to use a 5x7 envelope to give this away. And I do find that we need to make sure that we designate what the occasion is. So I do use the Happy Birthday sentiment, and I stamp that onto white cardstock, and then I just block that off with my trimmer. If you had a sentiment strip die, you could definitely use that. I'll link that below because Whimsy does carry one. And then using my tweezers, again, I just adhere that with wet glue. Pretty simple card. I didn't do any more embellishments because I think the shaker is more than enough. So thank you for hanging out with me. We really do appreciate it. We hope that you come back and visit us. Here are the last looks at my card. It's really super fun. Again, until next time, keep crafting. Bye-bye, my friends.